File stored on a computer can be accessed directly. Now, what we understood, what is a file? What are the types of files? Okay. What are the types of storage devices? Means where the files can be stored. That means inside the storage devices. Now, till now, that is okay, basic level. Now, now, now files stored on a computer that are to be accessed. So why we store data inside the computer? So this is a computer. Inside the computer, this is a storage device. Inside the storage device, this is the file. Inside the file, there is a data. Now this data, if I want to access. Okay. So data generally why we store the data means in the future, if we want again, then we have to use the data. So for that purpose, we access this data from the file system. So, but to access the data of a file, that is to access the data of a file to the software, okay, to the software. So how we access the data by using the software, some kind of software. Okay. For example, you see display monthly attendance report on a school website. Okay. So that is somebody has to write the program. Somebody has to write the program to access the data. So these data is inside the website. Okay. This is a computer. This computer, inside this computer, there is a website. This website. Now inside this website, there is a file. Inside this website, there is a file. Now inside this file, there is a data. Okay. To access this data, I need one software. I need one software. Okay. So the software is responsible to bring this data for me. Okay. That is how we can access the data. So without any software inside the artist also, any other external device also, we can access. But internally, it is also some contain some software. So that is this fundamental. What is file system? Where the file system can be stored, and in which format the files, that is data is stored inside the file. Okay. And after storing the data inside the device, how to access that data. So here one way is by using the software. By using the software, we can access the data from the file. Now this is the sequence. Now, now see here, this is the some student file. Some student file. This is the data. This is the data. In the last class, we have understood structured data is there, unstructured data is there. Okay. Structured data contain in the form of rows and columns. In the last class, we understood that point. So this data is in the form of rows and columns. Okay. So this is the example of the file. Now this file is posted in the website. From the website, we are accessing this file by using the software. So that is, this is the data. This is the data stored inside the file. Now this is the file. This data inside the file. Now where this file is inside the website. Inside the website. So from this website, if you want to access the data, if you want to access the data, you need software. You need software. Okay. You need software. So this is the process. So without the software, you cannot access the data. So that is very important. Now, so these are the some multiple examples. Attendance, there are multiple examples. So there are so many types of files are there. You can store structured type of data and unstructured type of data. Both types of data you can store in the file. So to want to access the data from the file, you need a software. So this is the how you access excuse me, how you can access the data. Next one. So these are the some and say some basic features of the file file system concept. Now next one, limitations of the file system. So what are the kinds of limitations are there? You can say disadvantages you can call or some kind of difficulties to access the data from the file. Okay, this is the file. This is the data. To access this data, to access this data, to access this data, uh, we need software. Okay, we need software that we understood. But what are the disadvantages when we wanted to when we wanted to access this data by using the some software, by using this software, what are the kind of disadvantages? From the file system, if you want to access the data, what are the disadvantages? So one disadvantage or one limitation is it is little difficult to access the data from the file system. So why it is? The files themselves do not provide any mechanism to retrieve the data. The data maintained in a file system accessible through application programs. So while writing such programs, the developer may not anticipate all the possible ways in which data may be accessed. So sometimes it is difficult to access data in the required format. So one has to write application program to access the data. So that means to access the data and somebody, this is the file, this is the data. To access the data and somebody has to write some programs. Somebody has to write some program. So programs, these programs always may not give best performance to access the data, not to bring the data to the user. These programs always may not give best performance to bring this data to the user or to the application user. Okay. This is one of the disadvantage of the file system. Understood? So there is a file is there. Inside the file, there is a data. If I want to access the data, I need a software. I need a software in the middle. This is the software. But this software always is not giving the best performance to bring this data to the software to the user. Okay, this is the one of the disadvantage. This is one of the disadvantage. Next one is next most disadvantage is redundancy. So what is redundancy? You see, it is a duplicate. Redundancy means it is a duplicate. Duplicate means what? There is already one file is there, XYZ. Again, you are creating or you want to store one more file, XYZ, or one more file already there, there with the same name, XYZ. Okay, in different places. Okay, that is, this file is in some place and this file is in some place. Let us say this file is in D drive and this file is in, let us say, some other E drive. Okay, or else in the same drive, this is inside one more folder, this is inside one more. Okay, so this is that means in the same device, the same device in different locations, the same kind of files are there. That is with the same name XYZ, there is a two files in different places in a same computer. So here this mechanism is called redundancy. So in the example, you can say that the student names are maintained in both the files. You can see example here. For example, 8.1. Yeah, 8.1 you see here. Here guardian name is there, G name. Okay. Here, here see, here guardian name is Himanshu Shah. Here also same is Himanshu Shah. Okay. Here, this is the student name. That is, this is completely one. This is one record. This is one record. And this is one record. Here the student name is different. Student name is different, but the guardian name is same. See here, the example. Now come down, you see. Now the table 8.1 shows the rule number 3 and 5 have same guardian name. So same guardian name is maintained twice here. In two times the guardian name is repeated. Now these examples are for the redundancy. So which is difficult to avoid in a file system. So what is the problem to maintain such type of data in the file system? It is a little difficult. Okay. So redundancy, what is the problem if the duplicate data is there inside the file or inside the different places? What is the problem? It leads to excess storage use and may cause data inconsistency. Okay. If the duplicate data is there, I need more space to store the data. Means same kind of data is there in this location and same kind of data is there in this location. So with this, what will happen? Inside the computer, this is the computer. Inside the computer, it will take some memory. Let us say this is a 10 KB memory and this is a 10 KB memory. 10 KB memory. That means in each and every file, whenever you store any file, that will take some data. That will take some memory. That will take some memory. So that is the problem with the data redundancy. That means I need to give more space to each and every file. Even though it is repeated, I need to give more space. So better, what is the problem with the file system data redundancy? Duplicate. But the first problem, to access the data from the file system, we need the software and the software may not give best performance always. So it is a little difficult to access the data from the file system. That is one problem. The second problem is data redundancy. That is duplicate data is there in the file. So when the duplicate data is there, I need to give the storage for the file. So when I give the storage to the file, my storage will be completed. So I'll run with the I may run with the less storage problem. So that is the redundancy problem. Now, next one is inconsistency. Next one is inconsistency. Now, see here. Next one is inconsistency. So, what is inconsistency here? The data inconsistency occurs when same data maintained in different places which do not match. You see here, this is a computer. Inside this computer, same data. This is a data in some file. This is a data in some file. And this is a data in some other file location. Okay. So it is what? Same data maintained in different places. Okay. Which do not match. Okay. This data and this data both are same in different places. So it is a students who wants to change the spelling of a name. It needs to be changed in some column in both the files. If a student leaves school, the details need to be deleted from both files. So as the files are being maintained by different people, the changes may not happen in one of the files. In that case, the student name will be different in both the files. So to that is in single line, we can say that to maintaining the data in a file system, it is difficult. Maintain the data in the file system, it is difficult. That's what it is, data inconsistency here. Next one is data isolation. You can refer the above table and refer the above table in the 8.1 and 8.2. You refer the both tables. The both the files are represented in these two tables, table name student and table name attendance, which are related to students. But there is no link or mapping between them. So here, this is one table and this is one table. And these two tables are having the student data. But these two tables are not have any link between them. Means I cannot access the data from this file of this file. Okay, there is no link between them. There is no link between them. Now, the school will have to write separate programs to access these two files. So, the school management, this is the school, and this is the one file, and this is one file. So, in this file, one student data is there, and in this file, one student data is there. Likewise, and this is the school, and school wants to access this data and this data. So what it has to do? It has to write two separate programs to access this data. Okay, this data. Now this is because the data mapping is not supported in the file system. If a link is there between these two files, so my work is easy. But there is no link between these two files. These two files are not linked with any concept or any relation. So if I want to access these two files, then there is no mapping. So that is this because the data mapping is not supported in file system. So what is the problem here? There is no mapping between two files. Between these two files, there is no mapping. See, in more complex systems, so where data files are generated by different person at different times. So that is a problem. So what is the problems of the file system now? Data redundancy. The next problem is data inconsistency. The next problem is data isolation. Next one is data dependence. Data dependence. Now data stored in a specific format or a structure in a file. Now this is a PC. Now this is a file. Okay. Inside this file, there is a data. Now, as in previous we understood, this data can be in the form of CSV, and this data can be in the form of any file format. These are the file format. Okay. The data is stored in a specific format. Now, these are called formats. These are called formats. CSV format, PDF format, okay, XLX format. So these are data format you can call, data extension you can call. Specific format or a structure in a file. Okay. So this computer will have the file, and this file can hold different types of format, different types of file formats. Okay. So if the structure or format itself is changed, all the existing application programs accessing that file also need to be changed. This is some problem. So if I want to access this data, okay. So what is the problem here? So previously it was in CSV format. Now that format is changed into Excel format. So when it is changed in one format to another format, so I need to change my application program to access these files. Okay. So that is the data dependence. That is the data dependency. And whatever the format you have stored the data, in the same format only we can access the data. Okay, if the format is changed, we cannot access the data. That is a problem, dependency. Next one is control data sharing. Control data sharing. Now, there can be different category of users. There are different users are there. Some, if we talking about the education field, there is a teacher is there, there is a staff is there, there's a parents are there, and students are there. These are the users. So this is users. The user can be a teacher, the user can be a staff, the user can be a parent, the user can be a student. Okay. So, so not every user should be able to access all the data. This is a file. Okay. The teacher may require some data, the office staff may require some data, and parents may require some other data, and student may require some other data. So each and every person may not require same kind of data. They require different kind of data to access. Okay. So here the staff, the not every user should be able to access all the data. So example what? The office staff can only see the student attendance data, but should not able to modify or delete it. Okay, some kind of conditions are there. If any office staff wants to access the student data, they can access, but they cannot modify. Means, yes, student data is there, student name is there. The student name, they cannot modify. They can access, but they cannot modify or they cannot delete. So these are the some kind of conditions are there. It means that the user should be given limited access. That is the kind of access is called read-only access. The kind of access is called what? Read-only access. So only teacher should be able to update the attendance data. It's very difficult to enforce this kind of access control in a file system. So while accessing file through application programs. So all these kind of controls, when it will happen, when you are accessing the data to an application program, to an application programs, these are the kind of conditions we'll have on the file. So that means any office staff, they can access the data. That is read-only operation. That is read-only operation. So these are the read-only operation. Now they can only access, but they cannot modify. They cannot modify. They cannot delete. Okay. So these are the controls. These are the controls on the data sharing when we are accessing through application programs. When we are accessing through application programs. This is the file system concept. So what is the file? How the file can be stored in the computer? Okay. To store inside the computer, we need some kind of devices, internal devices or external devices. So inside the devices, we store the data. So that data can be in the so many formats. That can be CSV format, that can be text format. There's so many formats are there. Okay. And this data, that is this file system concept is having some kind of limitations. That is some kind of disadvantages. So the disadvantages are like, that is the files can be difficult to access. We can access, but takes lot of time and efforts. That's our problem. Next one, data redundancy, duplicate problem is there, and inconsistency is there, isolation is there, and some kind of data dependency is there. There are some control data sharing on the data, on the files data. So these are the kind of uh, limitations on the file system concept. These are the limitations on the file system concept. So advantages are there. There are some disadvantages are there. So to overcome these problems, so the database management system concept is introduced. So why the database management system is introduced means, so these are the problems. There is a problems in the file system. So before the file system, what we discussed, the data. What is the type of data? What is the structure of the data we have discussed. And after that, we have discussed file system. What is the file and what are the limitations of the file? So there is a limitations on the file. There are some disadvantages with the file. Now the concept is introduced to DBMS, that is database management system. Just a second. You can see this database management system. Now see. So why the database management system is introduced means the limitations faced in the file system can be overcome by storing the data in database where the data are logically related. Okay. So what we understood, there are two files are there. The two files are there, but there is no mapping between these two files. Okay, we cannot share the data from one file to the another file. Okay, so that is there is no mapping. Okay, that is a disadvantage, one of the disadvantage with the file system. And if I want to access a different types of data formatted files from the file system, I need to write a lot of application programs. I need to change a lot of things in the application programs. This is the application program. This application program to be modified, to access the data from the file system. So these are the some kind of limitations on the file system. That is the reason the database management system is concept is introduced. So what is the DBMS advantage then here? How the DBMS will solve the file system concept of limitations? So here we can organize related data in a database. So we just understand the What is the main purpose of the DBMS? Here we can here we can organize related data in a database so that it can be managed in an efficient and easy way. Okay, so that is one advantage is what we can organize the related data. So how we can organize the related data, we will see through the some kind of software programs. We will understand this. Now, the database management system, our database system. So in short, we call it as a DBMS. So it is a software actually. It is a software that can be used to create and manage databases. So what it is doing, it can create or it can manage the databases. So what is inside the databases then? There is the organized related data is there. This is the database. Inside this database, there is the data. There is the data. And this data is organized. This data is organized with some relationship, with some kind of relationship. Okay. So here, the here the DBMS is doing what? By using this DBMS, the user can create the database. The user can store the data. The user can manage the data. The user can modify and update the and retrieve the data from the database. Okay, from the database through what? Some application programs. Again, here also we are using application programs. This is the database. This is the database, and these are the users. This user is accessing the database through an application program. Through an application program. So what are the advantages with the database means what are the kind of uh, what are kind of what's the kind of services he's getting from the database is he can create the database. These are the services he can get through the database. These are all. That is, the user can create the database is one service. He can store the data. He can manage the data. He can update or modify the data, and he or she can retrieve the data from the database by using this application. So these are the advantages of you with the database concept, DBMS. So database management system. Your management is there, right? By management means you can manage the data. You can manage the data. So this is the advantages. Now we said that DBMS is a software, right? Yeah, is a software that can be used to get all the services. Now, what are the softwares are there? Now, here see example. There are two types of softwares are there. There are two types of softwares. First one is open source. You can see here open source. Here open source is there. Open source is it is a some free of cost. Okay. Next one is commercial. Next one is commercial. So there are two types of softwares. One is open source. Next one is commercial. So which one you will go through, we can depend on your requirement it is. Okay. So example here is MySQL is there, MySQL, Oracle, and PostgreSQL, SQL Server, and Microsoft Access is there, and MongoDB is there. These are the example of the database softwares. Not only these, there are so many database softwares, other database softwares are there. So based on your interest, you can explore remaining also. See here. Now, a database system hides certain details about how the data are actually stored or maintained. So what is the database features? This is the database. In short, we will call DB. So what it is doing actually, it will store and sorry, it will hide. So it will hide certain details. Certain details. My data is there inside this DB database. My data is there. This is my data, and this data, all the details it will not give you. It is hiding some kind of details. Okay, it is hiding some kind of details. So that is, it provides with an abstract view of the data. Okay, abstract view of the data. If you want to access this data from the database, so this is the database. Okay, inside the database, this is the data file. This is the file. Okay, and this is the user. And user is accessing the data through database by using a software. Okay, by using the software you can take it as a Oracle. Okay, so by using the Oracle software, the user is accessing the data, but not completely. He wants to prove his identity. Okay, here abstract means it's only partial details only it is giving. Partial details. It is not giving complete details of the data. Okay. So a database system has a set of programs. Okay. This DB is having some programs. Okay. Which users or other programs can access, modify, or retrieve the stored data. So these are the services. These are the features you will get. They will get it from the database. Okay. Now the DBMS serves interface between the database and end user or application programs. This is the your subject, DBMS. Okay. Now DBMS is what? It is a interface. It is an interface. Interface between whom? It is an interface between user. Okay, one is user and one is application program. Application program. In short, we are calling app here, and this is the user. Okay. So here DBMS is what? It is an interface between the end user. Here you can call end user or user, and both are same. End users are application programs. Okay. So retrieving data from the database through special type of commands. So what is this? We can call end user or application program. Okay. So what it is doing? So if you want to get any data from the database, so this is the database. So this is the user, or you can call application program, end user or application program. This is okay. This is the database. Okay. To access retrieve or access or retrieve, to access or retrieve the data from the database. Okay. How we can access the data from the database? Through some special commands. Yes, special type of commands. Okay, commands. These commands, this is called querying the database. Query. What is this process is called? Query. The way the user give command to the database. Command to the database. Okay, command to the database to retrieve the data is called querying the database. So technically is what? It is called querying the database. So if you want any answer, you have to query the database. That means you have to send a command. How do you send a command? Through a program. Through a program. Okay. And that program is written in the database software. So what are the database softwares are there? In previous we have discussed My, MySQL, Oracle, MongoDB. These are the database softwares. So in the database software language, we have to write the program. By using the program, we have to send a command to the database, and that process is called querying the database. Querying the database. So with this query, we can get the data from the database. Okay. So in addition to that, user can modify structure of the database itself through a DBMS. So not only querying the DB, querying the database, by querying the database, they can modify the structure of the database. Okay, structure of the database. So these are the some kind of services or advantage with the database. Now see here. Now what are the some advantages we can see? So databases are widely used. They are widely used in various fields. Okay. So when which area we can use the database? So one is banking sector we can use. In a banking sector we can use. In a crop loan, getting the crop loan we can use. And to maintain the inventory management we can use. And to organization the resource management we can use. Online shopping we can use. Not only these, there are so many places we can use the database. So example, if you take a banking, in the banking, the customer information can be stored and accessed. The account details of the customer can be stored and accessed. The loan details of the customer can be stored and accessed. And the transaction details of the customer can be stored and accessed. Here, what are the services we can get? We can create the database. One is we can update the database. We can modify the database. Okay. We can modify the database and we can retrieve the data. Retrieve the data. You can see it. Or we can delete the data also. We can delete the data. So create, update, or modify. So that's it. And retrieve and delete. In short, you can call what CURD operation. CURD. Okay. CURD. So these are the operations we can apply on these services. And these services are related to banking. So what I said now, these are the services of the customer, which are the banking related. So on these services, what are the modifications we can apply? We can apply CURD. We can create the database, we can update the database, and retrieve the database, we can delete the database. Okay, these are the operations we can perform, or we can say these are advantages of the database in a banking sector. And if you take the online shopping, if you take online shopping, so these are the database we can maintain. These are the kind of data we can maintain the online shopping related database. That is, we can uh, we can store the item description, We can create the user login details, and we can create the user's preferences details. We can store. Okay. These are the advantages of the database and real-time applications. These are the real-time applications generally we use in everyday life. The banking every day we use, online shopping every day we use, the crop loan every day we use. So these are the advantages of the database. So in this means these many areas the database can be used. So when we go for the differences between file system to DBMS, uh, file system to DBMS. In the file system concept, we need to write a lot of application programs to access the file. Here, here already the software is available. By using the software, we can access the data from the database. So this is the file system to DBMS. What are some kind of transformations we'll come across when you're migrating to database? I can see. So file system concept we are used. So from the file system concept, if you are migrating to DBMS, so what are general transformations it will take place? So one is it requires sophisticated hardware and software. It requires sophisticated hardware and software. So it takes some kind of cost it is. So we have to spend some kind of special cost on these hardware and software. And it requires training cost. You can say we have to train the users for querying the database. So it is not that we can simply query the database. It requires some kind of training, some commands. We have to give the commands. The commands have to be written in database language. So for that, we need to train the users. So it is not that the general users can access the database. We have to train the users for querying the database. So this is one more, transformation take place. The next one is the recurrent cost. So regular backup and performance, recovery operations will take place. So these are the kind of transformations that takes place when you are migrating from file system concept to DBMS database concept. So if you have to decide whether you have to migrate to database or not. If you are comfortable with the file system concept, you can use it. If it is not sufficient for you, you can migrate to database concept. But when you are migrating to database, you have to keep in mind all these points. Not only these points, there are so many other points are there. So these points you have to remember. Now, what are the some of the key concepts in the database? Now, these are the some key concepts are there. These are some key concepts are there. Now, in order to efficiently manage data using the DBMS, okay, we need to understand some key terms here. Okay. So DBMS, when you want to understand, there are some terminology you have to understand. So when you understand the terminology, it is easy to understand the DBMS concept. So one key concept here is database schema. One concept is what schema it is. So what is schema here? See, the database schema is the design of the database. It is a design. If you can see your, this is a notebook, you can say it's a notebook. The notebook is having the cover page. The notebook is having the cover page, and the cover page is having the design, some design. And when you open the after that cover page, there are number of pages are there, and each and every page it will be designed with some borders. It will design with some borders, and inside that there is some page number is there. Page number is there. So like this, there's some kind of design is there. To design one simple one notebook or any textbook, there is some kind of design. And here also, when you wanted to create the database, it is having some kind of design. It is having some kind of design. So that is called schema. So schema is in one means what here is schema is nothing but a design. So design of what? Database. So we are designing the database. So it is a skeleton of the database that present the structure. Yeah, skeleton means what? Structure means if you take a table, the table contain rows and columns. If you take this is having one, two, three, four rows are there and two columns are there. Now this is a skeleton of the table. Now in this table, we have to fill the data. In this rows and columns, we have to fill the data. To fill the data, first we need to draw the table, right? To draw the table, this drawing the table is called scheme design. You have to design the table. How many rows and columns you want, you have to design. After that, you have to store the data inside the table. Now here also same thing. Here skeleton you have to draw. That means you have to create the schema first. That is the structure of the skeleton of the schema. You can say skeleton of the schema. That is design of the database. Okay, that is here what the table names and their fields and columns. Here an example. This is a table. The table name will be there and table rows and columns will be there. Now this type of each column can hold some kind of constraints on the data to be stored. Here constraint means conditions. So what are the kind of constraints we will discuss? In the constraints topic is a separate topic. There is a constraints are there we will discuss. So on this data, there are some kind of constraints, means conditions are there. So how you have to store the data, there is condition. Now among the tables, there is a relationship is there. Among the table, there is a relationship is there. So this is the what? Schema now. Now database schema is also called as what? Visual or logical structure, logical architecture. The logical architecture. We can call visual architecture or logical architecture. So a database design. Design is called what? Visual architecture or logical architecture. So it is telling us what? It is the data are organized in the database. So what is the skeleton is telling means the how you have to organize the data in the database. It is designed with a schema that is called skeleton. So first to whenever you are going to create any database, first you have to create the skeleton or create the schema of the database. That is logical architecture of the database you have to create first. So that is the point. So you can see here the diagram you can see here. Some kind of diagram is there. How you can access the data from the database. Here they are querying the data. Here they are querying the database. This is called querying the database. This is the database. Okay. So this database they want to access, they have to query the database. Means they have to use some kind of special commands to access the data from the database. Okay. Now we will discuss the remaining topics in next class. We'll wind up the session today.